Hello and welcome to another fun video. This time we're going to talk about how common is it that men get busted when they're looking for an escort. And again, this video is made from the point of view of what I have seen reported in the news and people I've talked to. Just keep in mind that on YouTube people will lose their channel by promoting any illegal activities. I'm not promoting any illegal activities. I am only reporting on what I have read in a topic that is of interest to me. And so first of all, there was a time in the United States in the 80s and maybe the 90s where there was a big push by the law enforcement community to go after any escort agencies. It was like a criminal act. And this was a time when homosexuality was still considered a disease, when gay marriage was illegal, and when having weed in your possession could get you landed in jail. Okay? We have come a long way since then, and the law enforcement is no longer concerned about what adults do in the privacy of their homes that's consensual. What they seem to be very concerned about, just from talking to some people who were working in the law enforcement community and what I have seen on all of the cases that I see in the news of men arrested for visiting sexual providers, is that they were seeing women that were either underage or trafficked. So those are the two big things. There are tens of thousands or maybe hundreds of thousands intimate service providers every day working in the US. And when I look at the ads, there's so many. However, when I listen to the press conferences from the police on the arrests that they've made, every single one that I've been following, and I've been following this for about a year just because I'm curious, had to do with traffic. The women were trafficked or underage. So they were being sold at a very low price against their will. Some of them don't even speak English, kept in a very close proximity in a room with a lot of women against their will pretty much, or underage. And there is actually law enforcement actively looking for women like this and busting the men who look for these women. I've also over the years talked to men who are involved in volunteer work or different groups outside of law enforcement that for their personal beliefs and convictions are actively targeting to rescue these women and to arrest the men who visit these women. So if you are going to see any woman who's trafficked or any underage woman for money, you are going to be in trouble and you're taking a very high risk. How will you know that this woman is trafficked? I think some giveaways are like these Asian massage parlors where these women don't even speak English. That's a big red flag. Going somewhere where you have a bunch of women in a room, or women who are very young. I think that it would be very easy to get an appointment. They're not going to ask anything of you. It's like, come in. Sometimes they might even get you in for a massage and try to give you a happy ending. That's not above board. In a licensed massage place, they should not be giving you happy endings, okay? I think that in general, they're not going to care about an independent woman who has an ad up and does her own thing. Nobody that I don't know of anyone that has had any difficulty in that kind of situation. And they don't care about empowered women. An empowered woman is going to have an ad. She's going to have a website. She's going to have social media. She may have reviews. She's going to conduct herself professionally, and she's going to require something of you. Anyone who says, just come on over, baby, I would be very worried that they're going to steal you, arrest you, or something. Something will be required of you, a deposit, a photo ID, work references, work information, because a legit woman wants to feel safe. but someone who just wants to entrap you, just wants to get you over there. If you Google police arrests of escorts or sex providers, I think you'll come to your own conclusion. Leave your comments below what your research has shown. All the cases that I've read were all massage parlors with trafficked Asian women. And the only exception was this like prostitution ring in the Washington, D.C. area, again, trafficked women. And the big giveaway was these men, I'm sorry, these men were low quality men, because the going rate in Washington, D.C. for 1 hour is probably $1,800 minimum. And these guys were paying $200 for an hour. So that should give you a big red flag. And not only that, there was a menu. They were soliciting prostitution, which is illegal. Any legitimate woman is not going to say, hey, this much for a blowjob, this much for that. They're not going to try to do that because it's illegal. And I think what those people were doing, they were actually selling sex for money, and that is definitely a red flag. And I think there was some kind of a menu. I should try to find the news report on it. They had like a menu, like this much for this much for that. It was all very cheap. And so the guys that were pigs, only pigs would take advantage like that and go for something like that. But there are men who, there are a lot of high quality men who hire these ladies, but there are also low quality men, men that will abuse a woman, hit her, rape her, like all kinds of things that men do to these ladies. So a legitimate woman is going to be very selective, and she's going to want to do a lot of screening to make sure that you're safe. So when they're just like, come on over, and they make it very easy for you and they charge very little, that should make some alarm bells go off. Like I said, all the other ones I read were all massage parlors where there were a bunch of women working for one person. They were not independent, and they couldn't speak English. I have heard of one other case, which I was not able to verify. It was just a word of mouth situation, where a woman lived in a residential neighborhood where everyone owned their own homes, and a lot of homeowners are very nosy what their neighbors are doing, whereas in an apartment situation, people don't really care, or in some neighborhoods, people don't really care. But this woman had a lot of traffic. She was very high volume, and the neighbor lady was calling the local, station. It's like, go check out my neighbor. She's got a lot of foot traffic. Something's going on. And they went and checked her out and asked her what she was up to and who was coming and going. I have not read any reports like that, but that seems logical. I would also think that seeing a streetwalker is very high risk, because anyone sitting in the car could be a cop. And I think that streetwalkers bring down the values of the neighborhoods. It's not safe for the women. It's not good for the women. And what woman wants to have sex in a car? I think that, but again, I have not read of any arrests made in that situation. All the ones that I read about are trafficking or underage. But trafficking, I haven't read any underage ones. But I just kind of pay attention to what comes across, kind of when I'm on the internet, what I come across, and I'm just kind of curious, what happened. But it was always guys who didn't do their research, who were just trying to look for the cheapest thing. And women who value themselves are not going to offer themselves for cheap. So I think just a sketchy looking ad, not requiring anything of you, super cheap. I don't know. I really don't know what I would look for if I were looking for someone like that. And I can't advise you because I don't want to get my channel taken down. But honestly, I wouldn't even really be able to tell. I'm not used to, I don't really look for that. So I just usually look at women's ads just out of curiosity, like how are their pictures, just to get ideas for photos and stuff. But I just think that the men I've talked to who have hired ladies, they do a lot of research, and they're willing to pay for the safety and so on. And I would say that Another thing I would think is that as a woman, I would think that a police officer, they usually travel in twos. So, if you have a date with a man and he gives you money for your time, there's nothing wrong with a man paying for companionship, but it is illegal for a man or a woman to charge for certain acts, like this much for this much for a blowjob or whatever. That is illegal, and you can't do that. You cannot offer that, and you cannot ask for that. So any woman who is asking you for so much for this, or any man who's asking how much for this, is someone that you should not see or visit, because soliciting prostitution is illegal. And but like I said, there are just so many people doing it independently, posting ads on the internet that, and the police don't really care unless you're taking advantage of women who are trafficked, or women who are underage, or women who are loitering on the streets. That's all I really know. I'm not an expert in this area. I find this very interesting. So if any of you have more like news reports, my comment section does allow links. You can post links to news reports, experiences, stories, or questions. So we can all learn. It is an interesting topic. I do find it interesting that they go after women who are trafficked for the sex trade, but there are women who are trafficked in the garment industry, in the domestic help industry, in the meat packing industry. People are trafficked too. So I haven't really paid attention to those type of stings, although I'm sure they exist. But I would say that anyone that's just has low prices, is soliciting certain services, or their ad is just a brand new ad with nothing else, no website, no social media, nothing in the description, that to me sounds flaky. I think what a lot of men are actually afraid of, just from having talked to men who've done this, is she gonna look like her pictures, or are her pictures fake? Has she gained a bunch of weight? Are those old pictures? Second, is she gonna keep my deposit? Is her neighborhood safe or sketchy? Is she gonna be sober or drunk? Because anyone can put up an ad. Am I gonna have a good experience? So I've heard of stories where men went to some lady, they've told me, and then they were robbed. That can happen too, especially if you're out late at night in a sketchy neighborhood. So I think, and it's risky for the ladies too. I've read stories on the internet of women who were assaulted, even though they did all the screening, they got the guy's real name and his driver's license and everything, some professional guy, and he still assaulted her. And so I think that people have to, do their own research and do what feels safe to them. So that's really all I can tell you. But share any other news reports that you have about trafficking and these Asian massage parlors. I mean, I don't want to deny these women money that they need, but people shouldn't be trafficked for something like this. They shouldn't be trafficked for any kind of labor. Not in the meatpacking industry, the massage industry, the domestic industry, for cleaning or childcare, or the garment industry, or the food industry, or the hospitality industry. But, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are trafficked, and there are, groups that are trying to put an end to that. So, that's really all I know. So thank you for your questions and for watching my video, and I hope to learn more from all of you in the comments.